My name is Dr. Salahuddin, Associate Professor in Noida Institute of Engineering and Technology, Pharmacy Institute, Greater Noida. In the previous lecture, I was discussing about the narcotic analgesics, basically the morphine and related analogues, and in the classification I have already discussed about the different types of the opioid analgesics. So, the remaining portion I will discuss in this class. So, first of all I have to remind something, what are the difference between the analgesics and the narcotic analgesics, and this analgesics, that are the drugs used to relieve the pain without altering the consciousness. Okay. And the narcotic analgesics, they are necessary to treat acute dental pain, especially in the patients that who are not tolerate non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs and whose pain truly does not respond the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs therapy. So, here before going to start the remaining part of the narcotic analgesics, first we have to discuss about the morphine rule. As we know the structure of morphine, so there is a one rule with some specific point, that is called morphine rule. This is the structure of morphine. So, here first this morphine rule have so there is a one the tertiary nitrogen with a small alkyl substituents, a quaternary carbon, tertiary nitrogen, this one, quaternary carbon also, we have the quaternary carbon, we have the phenyl group or its isosteric equivalent directly attached to the quaternary carbon, and a 2 carbon spacer, that is first carbon and the second carbon the 2 carbon spacer between the quaternary carbon and the tertiary nitrogen. This is the quaternary carbon and the tertiary nitrogen. So, there is a 2 spacer between the quaternary carbon and the tertiary nitrogen. So, these include the morphine rule. Next category of this narcotic antagonist, that is the morphinan. Previously we have already discussed about the morphine and the structure activity relationship of morphine, and here there is a one difference between this, we have without no epoxy linkage between 4 and 5, and there is no hydroxyl group present at 6th position. This is morphinan. So, this is the synthetic analgesics closely resembling the structure of morphine belong to morphinan system, and they contain complete carbon nitrogen skeleton of morphine, because only here what is missing this 4-5 epoxy linkage and 3 and 6 OH group. So, there is a complete carbon and nitrogen also we have. So, complete nitrogen carbon nitrogen skeleton of the morphine in the morphinan system. In the N-methyl morphinan, about 1/5 potent as morphine that it will prove that there is an 4,5 epoxy bridge of the morphine that is not required, that is not necessary for the analgesic activity of this MORPHINAN system. And there is only 4 ring A, B, C and D, A, B, C and the ring is D, and B, C are cis fused as in MORPHINAN. In the trans analog N-methyl MORPHINANS is devoid of any activity. Next is the structure activity relationship of MORPHINANS, and this MORPHINANS, it is introduced in 1946 by Grew. It is similar structure to MORPHINAN analog. Why it is similar? Because it has the carbon nitrogen skeleton of the morphine, and there is only one difference here, that is the ring E is absent in the MORPHINAN system, and as well as the 6 OH, the third OH and the 7,8 double bond. And this is the structure of livorphenol, and here if there is a 3 OH group is present in the structure of livorphenol, the 3 OH is present, but 6 OH is absent. There is no double bond between 7 and 8 position, and a 3 OH is optimum for the activity. 3 OH means position of the hydroxyl group at third position. If it is substituted with the 3 methoxy, then it is less active. The nitrogen substituents produces the same activity as in MORPHINAN, that we can substitute this morphine with this hydrogen CH3 and CH double bond CH2. So, it will produce the active compound as the morphine, and no other substituent may be added to the ring A, only the substitution point at third position in the ring A. The ring C must be unsubstituted. The ring C must be unsubstituted means there is no substitution at ring, no substitution at ring C, ring C, ring C and ring C. See here, there is no substitution either in the livorphenol, either in cyclorphenol, either in butarphenol, or the one experimental nickel. So, here there is a substitution CH double bond CH double bond CH2, cyclopropyl, butyl group and furan ethyl. So, here there are some important member of this MORPHINAN analogues, that is livorphenol, cyclorphenol and the butarphenol. The next category, that is benzomorphans. In the benzomorphans, it is first introduced in 1960, and in benzomorphan it is similar structure to that of morphine analog. So, why we are calling it as a the similar structure of morphine analog, and it also lacks C and E ring, as C and E ring also C and E ring present in the morphine. So, here only the 2 ring the 3 ring A, B and the D ring that we can see. So, structural feature of the morphine which are associated with analgesic activity, and include a benzene ring, quaternary carbon C5, and the tertiary nitrogen This is the specific feature of this particular 6,7 benzomorphine. Why it is called 6,7? Because the fusion at this point, that is 6 and 7. Now, the derivatives of 6,7 benzomorphine. 6,7 benzomorphines have analgesic activity with the two alkyl substituents at C5 and C9 cis to each other, as in case of morphine, and B and C rings are cis fusion occurs, as I have already told you. So, we have the 4 derivatives of this 6,7 benzomorphine. In the 6,7 benzomorphine, here we have only one substitution at this tertiary nitrogen. If it is substituted with this CH3, the name is metazocine. If it is substituted with phenyl ethyl, then it is phenazocine. Next is pentazocine, CH2 CH double bond C CH3, that is pentazocine. Cyclazocine, here the cyclopropyl methyl, nitrogen is substituted with what? CH2 cyclopropyl methyl, that is the cyclazocine. So, here the some compounds are present in cis isomer, some are trans, but the levorotatory isomer in cis series are most active, and the next is it shows the mixed agonist and antagonist properties. Mixed agonist and antagonist, some narcotic analgesics are used as narcotic agonist and the narcotic antagonist. So, they are act as this agonist antagonist properties. And phenethyl derivatives, the example is phenazocine. This phenazocine is a potent agonist both orally as well as parenterally. Phenazocine may be given for severe pain, not with the acute pain, and it has one characteristic feature, that it is less sedative than the morphine. Dimethyl allyl and cyclopropyl methyl derivatives like pentazocine and cyclazocine exhibit both agonist and antagonist properties. So, this agonist and antagonist act on the different types of the opioid receptors, like either with mu receptor, either with delta receptors, either with the kappa receptors. And by combining with these receptor like mu, kappa and delta, it exerts an analgesic action like cyclazocine. Cyclazocine is a competitive antagonist of the mu receptors, primarily working as agonist at the kappa receptor. So, at the different types of receptors, it will performs the different function, means that is why we are calling it as a mixed agonist and antagonist. Act on mu receptors as antagonist act as kappa receptor as agonist. So, that is why we are calling it as mixed. Pentazocine produces CNS effects which are generally similar to morphine opioid, including analgesia, sedation and the respiratory depression. Okay. And pentazocine also effects analgesic effects are due to agonistic action at the kappa receptor. It binds with the kappa receptor. Next is the pentazocine, when it acts at the mu receptor, it will act as a antagonist. Cyclazocine is a potent narcotic antagonist, and the analgesics, it is not used because of unpleasant dysphoric hallucination properties. Next is 4-phenyl piperidines. In the 4-phenyl piperidines, why we are calling it as a 4-phenyl piperidines? Because at 1, 2, 3, 4, at 4th position there is a 1 phenyl group is present, that is 4-phenyl piperidine, and here the well known example of 4-phenyl piperidines is pethidine, discovered serendipitously and represents the ultimate modification of the morphine skeleton, in which only the aromatic ring and the piperidine heterocycle are retained. So, piperidines in the there is a one ring, that is the ring D is a piperidine ring in the morphine, and the one ring A, that is the phenyl ring. So, only ring A and the ring D, that is the piperidine ring. Pethidine acts mainly as agonist, more lipid soluble than the morphine and less potent and shorter analgesic effects absorbed from the gastrointestinal tract. So, analgesic effects of pethidine after oral administration, what happens? It is detectable after 15 minutes. Onset of action is faster, and what is the difference between this morphine and pethidine? In respect to the toxic doses, it causes CNS excitation. Okay. It is used for most relief of most to moderate, mostly for the relief of the moderate to severe acute pain. It is not used for cough, diarrhea and as the morphine. So, the structure activity relationship of the 4-phenyl piperidines. So, in the structure activity relationship of 4-phenyl piperidines, we have we can do the some substitution at here. R equals to CH3 pethidine, R equals to CH2 C6H5 NH2. So, we can do the several modification at the tertiary nitrogen atom of the piperidine ring. So, the several modification system of this pethidine we can produce like aniline, and aniline have good oral activity, and the activity of aniline is 2 to 3 times more active than the pethidine, and it belongs to the same class like 4-phenyl piperidines. The next derivative we have in this 4-phenyl piperidines, we have diphenoxylate, we have the loperamide. So, a derivative of pethidine, when the N-methyl is replaced by 3-cyano, here is replaced by 3-cyano 3,3 diphenyl propyl group is diphenoxylate. Diphenoxin is what? Diphenoxin is the metabolite of diphenoxylate. Next is fentanyl. So, if there is a fentanyl where CH3 is substituted with this CH2 C6H5, it gives fentanyl. And this fentanyl have about 80 times more active than morphine. So, it is a very active compound. It is a mu agonist and the greater lipophilic characters. Greater lipophilic characters means it will more and more crosses the blood brain barrier and more drugs goes to the central nervous system. So, that is why it is a fast acting analgesics and the shorter duration of action. Next is the synthesis of fentanyl. In the synthesis of fentanyl, that we can synthesize this fentanyl from the 4-piperidone. 4-piperidone in the presence of phenethyl chloride, it will convert it into the first intermediate, and in the presence of aniline, it will convert it into the second intermediate. Just this CO group is converted into the NC6H5. In the next step, reduction takes place by using lithium aluminum hydride or sodium borohydrate, that is NaBH4. So, this NC6H5 converted into the single bonded NHC6H5, and in the final step, first it will react with propionic anhydride and then it is react with citric acid. Now, you will get fentanyl. So, another drug involved in this 4-phenyl piperidines is sufentanil. Sufentanil is the ether methoxyphenyl group at position 4 and 2-thioenyl ethyl group at the nitrogen as a piperidine. So, our main concern is the potency of sufentanil. Sufentanil potency is about 10 times than the fentanyl. Fentanyl itself a more active compound, as sufentanil is also about 10 times than that of fentanyl, and it produces few cardiac effects and less respiratory depression than the fentanyl. The next is alt-fentanyl and remifentanil. They are more rapid onset and shorter duration of action than the fentanyl. So, the primary utility of alt-fentanyl is a surgical anesthesia. We are using it in the surgical anesthesia especially for the cardiac compromised patient. Both sufentanil and alt-fentanyl are selective towards the mu receptor. It acts as a mu antagonist. Remifentanil is what? Remifentanil, this is the structure of remifentanil and it is a dimethyl ester. So, dimethyl ester COO or CH3 dimethyl ester with potency approximately equal to that of fentanyl. Next category, that is the methadone and its related analog. We can use this methadone equivalent to morphine in analgesic activity and the longer duration of action, and it is orally more active than the morphine, and it is used as a racemic mixture. and activity of this levorotatory isomer, it is 8 to 50 times more potent than the dextro isomer of the methadone. The examples of the methadone is the dextromoramide. Dextromoramide is also a methadone analog with the tertiary amide group, in place of alkyl ketone group, and it is a optically pure dextro isomer and slightly more potent than the morphine and is effective orally. Another derivative of methadone is propoxyphene. Propoxyphene is an analog related to isomethadione with an ester function in place of keto. So, we have the keto group, and if this keto group is replaced by an ester, then we will get this propoxyphene and it has 4 stereoisomer and the analgesic effects of the dextro isomer. So, the dextro isomer of this dextropropoxyphene, the name as indicate dextropropoxyphene, as this dextro isomer is more active than the levo, and the levo isomer is active as active in case of antitussive property. So, it is a levo isomer have antitussive property. Synthesis of methadone. So, we can synthesize of this methadone by using this diphenyl acetonitrile by using dimethyl amino 2 chloropropane, and in the presence of NaNH2 we will get the dextro isomer and this levo isomer. As I have already told you, this dextro isomer is used as dextro isomer have the analgesic property and the levo isomer have antitussive property. So, these are the some references. Thank you.